How do you deal with stress?
Lately, I play music like crazy. There's an old Beach Boys tune. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Beach Boys. It's called "In My Room." It's a real, schmaltzy '60s thing. And I'm hanging out in my room with my guitars and my music, and I'm finding that singing and just getting these songs that are floating around out of here is just the best thing. I find if you're in music, surrounded by music, you're walking down, you're listening to music, it's really hard to be somewhere else. And all the worries of the world seem to go away when I'm surrounded by it. Good question.
What was one of the biggest conflicts you have seen?
The biggest conflict that I'm still experiencing is a small civil war in the part of the world that I live for 3 months of the year between government forces and tribal people who are fighting for their homeland rights. And it's one of these things where people are being killed every day. And it's really the biggest conflict I've ever been involved with.
What's your favorite part about your job?
I wish I knew what my job was for starters. So I got like 7 jobs, but in terms of my job around conflict resolution, and is that what you mean? Or yeah? My favorite part is that people that think they hate each other actually don't hate each other, but they don't know that they don't hate each other. They think they do, so you think you hate her and you think he hates him and so on. But it's an overlay that people put out to protect themselves because they're afraid. And if you and I had a fight and we could talk about how we were afraid of each other instead of how much I hate you, we'd have a really different conversation. And when you get people that think they hate each other talking about that they're actually afraid of each other and why, that's my favorite part. It's very exciting. Scary too. That fear thing.
What made you think of building a place in a village?
What made me think of building a place in a village? Well, I live in this very remote part of the world for some part of every year. And I thought that if I learned how to build a house in the style of the people that have built those houses, that it would actually endear me to those people. This was my romantic notion of this. So I built this bamboo house, bamboo and jungle plants. It took me 2 years to build it. And it's a beautiful house. And my motivation was because I wanted to belong there. And I felt like if I did things the way that that culture wanted to do it, did things, that I'd sort of like buy my way in. I found out that that's not true. That's the whole, you could ask me a question about that too if you want. But that was my motivation, was to belong. That's why I wanted to do it.
What difficulties you have to cope with being a mediator?
The biggest difficulty being a mediator is coping with your inner voices. They're the group I call the committee. You're actually listening to them right now, but you're not really aware of them. They're your mom and your dad, and they're all the people that are telling you, or they're Christopher right now who's over here. You should ask questions, It's like all these invisible people that, so it makes it really hard for me to listen to you and like really be here with you because the committee's going, oh, your hair's standing up right now, or you didn't brush your teeth this morning. Or the hardest part is stilling the committee so that you can listen to people, hear what they have to say.
What's one of your favorite things about traveling?
My favorite thing about traveling is that the world is not this place. The world is not this world. There's places out there where people memorize holy books that are 4,000 years old that they carry in their mind, and if you talk to them, they can tell you what chapter 13, page 6, line 7 says. And there are places out there where people are healing themselves and animals with magical plants that nobody else knows about. And there are places out there where people speak languages that predate Sanskrit. That the world is just a hugely diverse, magical place. And it's cool, even Nanaimo. In its own way.
Oh, that's a stretch.
In its own way. Yes.
How did you settle your first conflict?
My first conflict that I worked at in mediation, do you mean? interestingly enough, my bread and butter for mediation was divorces and separations for the last 25 years. I don't do them anymore. But the first one that I felt like I really settled was when I said to the people after I was practicing all this, you know, my trade. The mediation trade has tools, like carpenters have saws or whatever. We have tools, right? And I was using all these tools, and I was finding that people just weren't getting anywhere. And what really worked was for me to say, look, Dave, Lois, what about your kids? Like, would you think your kids would like to see you fighting like this? What about them? And they went, oh, right, the kids. And those people who were just, I was desperate, right? They were not talking to each other. And when I kind of challenged them to think about other people, they did. And they settled, and it was good. So that was kind of what felt like my first breakthrough. I don't do that all the time, by the way. But what motivated me to help other people is that when I get so focused on helping myself, it feels like my problems are like the biggest problems in the whole universe. Oh my God, you know, like, am I going to make it to the school on time this morning? Is irrelevant, right? To the whole big picture. And if you focus on serving other people, then your problems diminish all by themselves. In fact, some of them disappear altogether because you're busy taking care of other people's needs. And it works like a hot down. Makes your problems shrink. You know, part of it for me is that I was kind of a troublemaker, like some of you are, I think, in my younger days. I mean, like I know some of you are in your younger days. And it was always somebody else's fault, you know what I mean? It was always somebody else's fault. It was my mother's fault, my father's fault, my teacher's fault. And some magical things happened that compelled me to help other people. And I realized, oh, wait a minute, it's up to me, right? It's not up to anybody else. Still, my mother and father were still whoever they were, but helping other people made my problems just disappear. So I had a few things that almost killed me happen. And one of them that I can describe was pedaling home to be with my new sweetheart. I was 19 years old, and I was pedaling home on a bicycle to be with her for the first time in our new house, which was the back of a truck. Okay, it wasn't much of a house. And a guy opened up his door, and I flew over the door of this car, slid out onto the road, was lying there half conscious, and I slid between the front and the back wheels of a semi-trailer truck that had a bulldozer on the back. And I was lying there going, oh, I'm dead. And I kind of moved my head out of the way, and then the truck ran over the rest of my body. And it just kind of exploded me. And I think that really changed my worldview. You know, there was a long journey coming back from that and going, oh wow, you know, like just being here maybe this is it, you know, just being here and just being alive is a huge gift. And I had several of those, but those were what I call my magical younger moments, you know, where well, it's great to be here, happy to be here, and that's it. What I love to do is, the longer I live, I love to be with my family. I guess I'd say about that, relative to you folks and your families, I went away from my family for a really, really long time because I thought they were bad people. And, you know, some of them weren't the best, but, you know, they're just ordinary human beings. And now that I'm older, I'm wanting to go back to my family, make amends for my behaviors, forgive people for theirs, and just be with my family more than anything else. That's what I want. And I want to do that in an atmosphere of fun. I want to have a good time. We're here for a really short time. I want to have a good time. And what's interesting for me too, like my interpretation of good time when I was your age was different than my interpretation of good time now, but the motivation is the same. Like the reason that you guys are going out drinking and drugging and partying and doing whatever it is that you're doing that's fun is because you're driven by the same need, right? You want your life to be enjoyable. And what I'm working on right now is still trying to make my life enjoyable. And I'm doing a lot less drinking and drugs than I used to do. But I'm here to have a good time. And that ties in with this guy's question is, I have a good time when I'm helping other people. If you go out and help other people, it's what Les said, you know, you think you're having a hard time. Holy smokes. Go out in Campbell River and check out other people your age who are having a really lot harder time than you. Extend your hand to those people. Help them out. And your troubles will disappear. It's a really paradoxical thing about being alive, that the more that you give, the more that you get, and the less challenging life becomes. It's interesting, there was this old psychology guy named Maslow. You might want to look him up, M-A-S-L-O-W. And he did a very smart thing. He created what he called, it's a fancy word, he called the hierarchy of human needs. But basically it's a ladder, right? And he said, when humans work their way through their life, they work up this ladder. And at the bottom of the ladder was survival, right? That's eating and drinking and all that. The next thing after that was material well-being, which was having a shelter over your head, water to drink, food to eat. The next thing after that Maslow said people need, if they have those things, right? If you have a place to live and food to eat, is you need to belong somewhere. We're doing all this stuff because we want to belong somewhere. And it's not, and I'm no different than you that way. I just want to belong to something. So I recognize that as a basic driver for me. So if I go out and meet other people, or be with other people or other societies or other cultures, I have this need to want to belong to them somehow and be part of them, rather than like be a tourist and go there and watch them as if, you know, well, I went to, you know, Costa Rica or whatever it is, and I saw the natives, you know what I mean? It's like they're you and they're me, and we all belong to each other. So for me, it's about trying to figure out every day, how do I fit in? How can I belong to you guys? How can you guys belong? We all belong to each other, really. And but we don't name it that way. So for me, it's just, I just kind of see it like brushing my teeth. Something I need to do. What's really interesting is the older you get, your hobbies become your life. You know, like I used to do it on the side, but organic gardening and growing good food, I love to do. I love playing music. I love walking. I love being out in nature any old time. I love splitting firewood. I love visiting my 89-year-old mom. But what's interesting is that those used to be things I did, like when I was busy and had my head down, I was living my life this way. I did them on the side. Now they're just part of, so it's hard for me to separate my hobbies from my life. But those are the things that I really like to do.
How have you helped people find answers?
You know, I think the best way to do that is if you're working with people, if I was working with you and you were looking for answers, then I'd become a mirror to you, because you already know. Every one of you already know exactly what you're supposed to do, exactly how you're supposed to be, exactly how your life should work for you. So I think our job, you know, people that do what Chris and people do that help people, is to be a mirror, rather than say, you know what you ought to be doing, you know, or why do you this, or, you know, that stuff that parents tend to do. I think to be a mirror to people and hold yourself up and just reflect back to people what you see is the best way for them to get their, figure out who they are. The key thing I would like to say is that if we could just get conscious right away of whether the words that we're saying, it's about thinking about how the words we're saying are landing on the people that are receiving them. So if I you know, go, hey fag, how are you doing today? Let's say, you know, and my intentions are not to be insulting, you know, or degrading or whatever, but the consequence of that may have that implication. See, I like Martin Luther King's definition of violence. It's, if you think about this one, it's really cool. He said, violence is any activity that steals the dignity of the other person. It's not about punching somebody in the face. It's not about poking anybody with a stick. It's about behaving in a way where what you do diminishes the dignity of the other person. Because you all want to be treated with dignity. You all want to be treated with respect. So it's about being conscious about how what you say and how what your body does imparts dignity to people rather than diminishes it in any way. And that's the key to nonviolent communication. But there's lots to learn about it. Mostly about the body, interestingly enough, not about the words so much. But there's lots to learn, and I think it's cool that you're talking about it.